So there's a current in every spiritual system, in every religious system, in every philosophy of success that talks about the fact that there are two modes. And I am rereading this wonderful book that's basically on study, it's on mathematics. It's called A Mind for Numbers, which basically teaches you how to go into the sciences and so on, and gives you tools for that. And it names these two modes. One of them is called the focused mode, and one of them is called the diffuse mode. Of course, you have to have both. And the reason you have to have both, if you've paid attention to our channel, if you've studied interiorism, is because in the world of appearances, there is a duality, there's a multiplicity. When we came down into this multiplicity. Every spirituality is taught about it. But a lot of credence and a lot of attention is dedicated to the focus mode. And again, you need that. But as Abraham Hicks talks about, we've focused so much because, see, when you focus, you then run into the unique aspects of your personality, and those cause what we call blocks. And I think blocks are a good description for it when you're talking about success in the world. But they are not a good description when you're talking about ultimate reality, because blocks have a negative connotation. And there is no negative and positive in reality. It's actually all good. So there are really no negative emotions. They're all good. When you come upon these blocks, a lot of modern self-help and success theory says, just fight through that. Go through that. And there's some value in that, because eventually you'll hit bigger blocks. And eventually they'll become so big that there's nothing you can do except surrender. That's when you go into the diffuse mode. But as this book on science talks about, if you look at the lives of great inventors, great mathematicians, they learn to go into that diffuse mode more frequently and more quickly. And the diffuse mode is something that we're going to refer to as surrender. And every spirituality and religion talks about surrendering, especially if you look now, we're in the month of Ramadan, the Islamic tradition, the Sufi tradition. Islam means surrender, and it is in every other religion and every other spirituality. And there's a benefit to it. And I just want to read a small passage from Neville Goddard in his book, Your Faith is Your Fortune. There's a very famous chapter called Daniel and the Lion's Den. And he talks about this story of Daniel as an actual example of how to create the reality that you wish to bring about. He says, the story of Daniel is the story of every man. It is recorded that Daniel, while locked in the lion's den, turned his back upon the hungry beasts, and with his vision turned toward the light coming from above, he prayed to the one and only God. The lions, who were purposely starved for the feast, remained powerless to hurt the prophet. Daniel's faith in God was so great that it finally brought about his freedom and his appointment to a high office in the government of his country. The story was written for you to instruct you in the art of freeing yourself from any problem or prison in the world. Most of us, on finding ourselves in the lion's den, would be concerned only with the lions, wouldn't we? We would not be thinking of any other problem in the whole wide world but that of the lions. We'd be trying to solve it. Yet we are told that Daniel turned his back upon them and looked toward the light that was God. If we could follow the example of Daniel while threatened with any dire disaster, such as lions, poverty, sickness, if, like Daniel, we could remove our attention to the light that is God, our solutions would be similarly simple. For example, if you were imprisoned, Neville says, no man would need to tell you that what you should desire is freedom. Freedom, or rather the desire to be free, would be automatic. The same would be true if you found yourself sick or in debt, or in any other predicament. Lions represent seemingly unstoppable situations of a threatening nature. Every problem automatically produces its own solution in the form of a desire to be free from the problem. Therefore, turn your back upon the problem and focus your attention upon the desired solution by already feeling yourself to be that which you desire. Continue in this belief, and you will find that your prison wall will disappear as you begin to express that which you've become conscious of being. So, in many of these philosophies, and we talk about them in interiorism a lot, we're told to get very clear on what it is you want. And the benefit of that is that it's easier to return to that when circumstances on the outer are not seeming to point to you that you're on the path to what you want. I hope you understand me just a little bit. But there's a deeper way. There's an easier way. And the more we become masters of this philosophy of working on ourselves, the more we know that the universe is a benevolent universe because it is me, because it is I. And I would never do anything to harm me. Then we start to get into this mode of surrender. And Neville talked about it. So you don't have to say, oh, what I desire is this, and then I'm going to make an image of that and imagine that. That's beautiful, and we all need to do it in certain modalities. But there comes a time when you get into the modality of surrender. And surrender means, you know what? A circumstance occurred that I didn't like. I know that all of that is generating a desire within me, and that desire is given in the moment it's generated. Therefore, I do not have to do anything. I do not have to try to change anything, and I can accept everything as being on my path